So I went from Johnson & Johnson to running my own small business, and then following a very enjoyable campaign for the Better Together team in 2014, I then was asked to step up and become a member of the Scottish Conservative Party, and I said yes, where I became a councillor, and I'm now an MSP for the Lothian region. And in one of my many roles in Parliament right now, I'm the Scottish Conservative Party member on the new gender-sensitive audit group, which is there to try and get a sense of some of the pressures and differences that women face in Parliament. And each of those chapters has really deepened or reinforced, perhaps, the barriers that women face in all sorts of life. Because when I worked in J&J, that was from 1996 to, well, you can do the maths, I took on a role within the brand new Women's Leadership Initiative, WLI, and I was the UK representative on that group. And that was about investing in real structural change, mentoring programs, leadership academies, and making sure men were allies to us, and really addressing those microaggressions in the workplace. And that wasn't just a tick box exercise, and it really was part of the culture. But even though at that time my franchise had a female global president, I had the same usual biases you get from male bosses, and I still have my Nokia phone with some of the text messages that he sent me in a drawer, should it ever be required. But at the same time, when I moved into that small business, I did have a different experience, and I know Michelle has already alluded to some of that. Accessing finance, because you're on the CPG for Women's Enterprise, so some of this is familiar. Building networks, balancing the growth of the business, and could it grow with the family responsibilities that I was managing. And it was a real stark reminder that while there was corporate initiatives to support women, especially entrepreneurs, they still face really, really systemic barriers, and it's really, really tough out there. So we need to understand what the realities of women's lives are, support more women into STEM and digital, which I think is a really good thing going forward. And it's about the understanding our caring responsibilities, because we have them at all points in our lives, don't we? When we have our young families, and then when our parents become elderly and you're caring for them, which is something I'm really experiencing right now. But one of the most powerful lessons I took from my time at Johnson & Johnson, and I've always worked with that, is engaging men as allies, and that gender isn't just a women's issue, it's a leadership issue. And I do feel that the Conservative Party has supported me at every step of my time. Is that my 5 minutes? So with that, I will just quickly move on to Joanna. And I have to give you this one as well. It doesn't matter how old the person, if it's a man or a woman and they're young, I would still say go off and do something else. I still really, really believe there's so many students go to university, and particularly at Edinburgh, to study politics with this aspiration that they can all of a sudden become a politician. But the only way to be good at what you do is if you've done something else before you can come into that building. And if you've lived in that political bubble, worked in that political bubble, and that's all you've known, you cannot serve the constituents that you are elected to serve. And that would be my one piece of feedback. And that goes from somebody at primary school when they've spoken to me, or somebody in their 20s. Go off and have a career and then come back in.
And I'm going to push a bit further and say, what happens in the interim period when we have what we have are the people who are departing Parliament, and some excellent people who are departing Parliament at the end of this term, and the loss will be felt, or it should certainly be felt by Parliament. What happens in the interim period when we don't have anyone filling that gap and we have more career politicians coming in?
But you don't have to fill the gap with 20-year-old young people. You can find people like myself and Michelle that were in I was in my 40s when I came to it, or in your 30s, or, there's whole lots of different people that can come. And I think it's about, and the one way to attract people, I was sitting when I was working going, one day I'm going to go in there and I'll be better than those people that are in there now. But right now I need to do what I'm doing. Okay, that was what my thought process was. And that time came when Ruth Davidson picked up the phone and asked me to stand, and I said yes. And I was mid-40s. And you have that awakening, you have the time in your life, and you know it's right. And you just it can't be as toxic as it is now, because people look and they go, why would I want to go in there? You can't do anything without having your life ruined on social media. You can't go out for dinner without having someone, some of the horrific correspondence that we get. And until that changes, I think it's going to be very difficult to encourage anybody, but I don't think That's the issue at the moment, I think, and certainly in Scottish politics.
Thank you, Sue. Michelle Foley?
I've got two women of a similar age to myself that I've just moved into Edinburgh from West Lothian, and I am trying to actively work with them to encourage them to maybe consider looking to become a candidate, but perhaps at local government elections first. Not because I don't want them standing in my patch, but it's more, I really think that's a good grounding to get a bit of sense and really get into your community, because I think my introduction was all about being connected to the community and having that activism, and that gives you that understanding and the belief system as to why you're getting into this job in the first place, because you want to help people. And if you're getting in it to help yourself, then that's not why you should be doing politics. But if you're getting into it because you want to help that community be stronger, more resilient, get more homes, get better healthcare, but get better education, then that's a great motivation. I stood as a councillor and I fought to keep 2 local high schools open because the council wanted to close them, and I beat the council with a massive community behind me. And that's what then gave me the courage and the confidence to go on and know that I'd be a good MSP. So I think that's the sort of discussion. Does that help?
It does.
Okay.